What's up, Saints and Eights? Welcome back to another episode of Music and Makeup. This week I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite newly released music, along with my thoughts on whether it's time for hip-hop to have a contemporary category and what makes an album a classic. So I did my brows off camera. So for my eyeshadow today, I'm using the Danessa Myricks Colorfix pigment in Nude 8 and in Goldmine. I'm going to start off priming with my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer because these are late 1900s lids, so they need the priming. I don't really like using concealer. It doesn't make the shadows stay like how I want it to. So let's prime these lids. I don't know if this may be for me anymore. So new releases, we're gonna cover these real quick because I got a couple new things I'm listening to. This right here is Smoke DZA Za. This just came out today, but I'm really fucking with this. He been on a tear lately. I'm here for it. He said they putting grabber on everything. DZA, please talk to him. Why are y'all using grabber? I can't do it. Burning your lungs up. That's as bad to me as using a wood. I think woods and that grabber is all violence on your lungs. They love grabber up here. Funnel, all that. Is that the same thing, grabber and funnels? Let me see. Who put you on to smoking raw papers? I've always said, and I wonder, did they ever cut him a check? Because that's how I knew about raw, was through Smoke DZA. Raw papers did not really get popular, at least around people I knew. Didn't get popular until DZA came on the scene. Okay, so here after I put on the Urban Decay primer, I kind of blended into my skin. You can see it looks like ultra white right here, so I just blended in. I think this is going to be my last time using the primer. I know that concealer is not primer, but I just don't like the way it looks. And on the eyes today, I'm using Danessa Myricks Colorfix in the shade Nude 8. And I just put a small amount here on my palette. And I start by just blending that over the eye, just getting a little coverage on there. Now do remember the Colorfix, it dries fast. So you're going to have to work really fast once you have it applied. Bronson released a new album called Johanan, Sebastian, Bachlava, the Doctor. I wanted to make sure I had that right. He was going to give us an interesting title. And the song I'm listening to now, this is Citrus Wahoo featuring Mayhem Loren. And I'm gonna guess Citrus Wahoo is a type of fish or a type of dish. I'm gonna check here in a second, but Bronson is very good with the turning you on to new foods. I was a ardent fan of Fuck That's Delicious. I still watch it on YouTube. That's how I found I found a lot of the places that I go to eat out of town is from off of that show. Those were the best days of Vice, in my opinion. Now I'm going to go in with the shade Lovesick from the Danessa Myricks Groundworks Blooming Romance palette. I'm just going to use that as like a transitional shade between my lid and that little space above the lid. So this song is Compressor and it features Larry June. This is another one of my favorites off this album. I ain't gonna lie, this one was okay. It's as I get older and my taste changed. But yeah, the beats on it were fire. I always like Alchemist and Action Bronson together. So I knew at least like sonically, beat wise, I knew I would fuck with this. So for a little shimmer on the eye, I'm going to use the Danessa Myricks Colorfix pigments again, this time in the color Goldmine. Just a small amount on the palette. And then I'm just going to lightly press into the eye, again working fast because the pigment does dry kind of fast. And because I have hooded eyes, the thing that you see me doing there is I mark right where my lid folds. That's how far I have to take my eyeshadow if I want it to show when my eyes are closed. So this is where we landed with the eye makeup. I just wanted something a little gold and sparkly, and this is fitting the bill. So let's move on to the base. I wanted to say this too. This is not really an album review channel. I don't like rating people's art because I feel like all that's subjective. One person's ear is not going to be same as the other person's ear. So that being said, I don't really review albums. I just like to turn y'all on to what it is that I'm listening to. And in the comments, always, give me suggestions too. I just love learning and hearing and finding new music. So That being said, I did listen to the new Pete Rock and Common, the Auditorium Volume 1, and I've been very excited for this. I think they are like a perfect match. I have not kept up with a lot of Common's music lately, but this I was excited for because I just felt like Pete Rock was going to really get it right with him. And they did not miss. This was a really good album. One of the songs I enjoyed the most off of there is the one I'm listening to now. It's called Now and Then. Overall, this was a good album. It's a little longer than we're used to, but this album felt like they put a lot of thought into it. The rollout of the album, the way that they did the different live shows. I know they're going on tour. I'm definitely going to catch them live. I'm happy to see artists that I've been rocking with since I was in like middle school out here making music, which brings me to something that I saw Ninth Wonder tweet where he asked whether or not we should have a contemporary hip-hop category, and I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with him. To get started, I'm going to use the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder in the shade 9.5. I don't take it directly out of the pan. I disperse it onto my brush and then rub it across my face. I believe it is time for us to have a contemporary hip-hop category. As hip-hop gets older, it is going to become more necessary for us to have that category. I do think it's a little odd to have artists, that have been around and like are contemporaries to these newer artists, have them like in the same category. And we used to have, I don't know if it's still a thing now, but in R&B, even a contemporary category. And that helped separate like what it was kind of like grown folks R&B, young folks R&B. But you have to be honest with yourself. A 25-year-old is not making music for me, but artists that I've always listened to are still making music. I think it is only fair that they have their space, and that we have like a lane in a category that caters to them. I do think it's unfair. 25-year-olds are not listening to music made by 45-year-olds, and to a point, I believe it was Schoolboy Q who even said, I'm 35. I don't want to rhyme for like an 18-year-old demographic. So I think that contemporary category is needed as hip hop and its listeners age with it too. And that also was evident at, Rock the Bells? And when Method Man said no more booking him for this because the crowd is young. I remember having like a moment when I was still very much like a get off my lawn type of hip hop listener. And I had to have a moment for myself where I was like, yo, a 25-year-old is not making music thinking about, the 40 or 35-year-olds, this is going to go off at the day party. I don't know. It's just the moment where you remind you, like, I'm not the target demographic for this young group, but the artists that I love are still making music and I am their target demographic. So it's like, why not go and support the people who are making the music you want to hear instead of browbeating the people that aren't into making the music you want to hear? Okay, so here I am concealing my skin with the Danessa Myricks Lift and Flex Concealer in the shade 16. Just kind of use this to cover my blemishes and hyperpigmentation and like the dark circles around my eye. Now I am going to go back and highlight under my eyes, but this is just so that my makeup doesn't show up gray underneath. And as always, dry your concealer. That helps it keep from sliding around your face. Now here I'm going to use my Sephora concealer brush to kind of blend out all of the concealer now that it's dried. And again, I just use a patting motion. Don't want to do any rubbing. We don't want to drag the concealer across our face. We want everything to stay put. A release that I have really been feeling it. It's been in my rotation like for the last couple of days has been Los Angeles by Blu and Evidence. And of course, it's a one producer album, so y'all know how I feel about that. And this album, the title is really self-explanatory. The album is about Los Angeles. And the song I'm playing now is called The Land. And I love this song so bad. Like when I heard it, I sat straight up when I heard this. And it has a snippet or a sample of How Could I Kill a Man from Cypress Hill in it, and I just love the shout to that. I loved me some Cypress Hill growing up.
So now that we've primed, it's time for foundation, and I'm using the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Foundation in the shade 21N. It's perfect for the neutral girlies. Just put a little bit on my palette, and I use my number 70 Sephora brush just to buff all of that in.
This is another song from off the album that I really love. This is called Lights at Night, and this has a feature with two of my other favorites, Damo Genesis and Navy Blue, and I love hearing all three of them together.
Okay, here I am using a puff to press any excess product into the skin. It just gives it a less shiny finish. I like it. It's a necessary step for me.
I said earlier that I don't really want to do like a lot of album reviews because it's just not enough time for me to really say that I like absorbed and listened to an album. I need weeks. I have tried to do reviews, and I would always end up kicking myself because I would go back and watch like weeks later, and I'm like, damn, I missed this point about the album, this point about the album, because I was only reviewing it after like 2 or 3 days and really hadn't had a chance to like live with it. I know I hate how cliche that sounds, but it started to make me think. Mechaopolis asked on Instagram if the age of the internet has changed the way that we rate what's a classic. And I think the internet and the way that we listen to music by streaming has had a huge impact on the way that we rate albums, the way that we listen to music. Now, streaming has made it so that you really have like 72 hours and then the world has heard it. It used to be when you were going to purchase physical music, you had to, it might not be sometimes if an album got released on Friday and maybe it wasn't your payday Friday, so you might not listen to it till that next Friday. You might not be able to afford the CD at all, so you can't wait till you can get a dub from your homie, and that might be like a month. So music had like a longer shelf life. Music stayed out a lot longer back in the day than it does now. So that being said, I do feel that people rush very quickly when an album is out to review it and deem it a classic, deem it good, bad, or indifferent. There's been plenty of albums that I listened to, like the first couple of listens, I thought the album was terrible. And then it grew on me, and Speakerbox was like that. I only fucked with The Love Below for a very long time and really didn't listen to Speakerbox because I was like, oh, I don't really like this. And then one day I'm like, let me just give it a second try, and did, and fell in love with that part of the album too. I feel like we don't listen to music long enough or let something be out long enough before we call it a classic. I feel that something has to be out for at least a year, and a year is me being very, very, very generous. Classic is something that you can go back to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and it still goes. It still holds up. When I was looking for albums for this video, I had a lot of albums that I had on my list that I thought to me were classics, and some of them have not held up. I went back to listen to a few, and I'm like, I really only like 2 songs off this album. The rest of it might have just been nostalgia. I always implore people, go back and listen to the things that you're calling classics. Go back and listen again. See if you still feel the same way, if it still hits you. Some songs I go back and listen and like, this aged terribly. But that's how I listen to music. That's how I determine whether or not something's a classic. So we are going to jump into some albums that I feel are classics. And we're going to play a couple songs off those, and I'm going to keep going with this makeup. This is the Flyygod album by Westside Gunn, and this album came out March of 2016, and for me, it holds up as a classic. I still get the same feeling. There's nothing that sounds dated or out of style, and the album is almost 9 years old. Still, it holds up. Whenever Wes does Mr. T at a show, I'm ready to lose my mind. This beat still holds up. Shout out to Apollo Brown.
So for blush, I'm using the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder Flushed in the shade Rosé and Brunch, which is like a mauve type of pink, which is perfect for like a lighter look for the day. And I've already loaded some here on an angled brush, and I just go around my cheekbone area in that like L-shaped type of pattern into the temples. Don't worry about having too much because it's going to get covered with concealer, but I love this blush. It's a pretty color match, and I love how it's buildable, so I can use as little or as much as I want. And next, I'm going to conceal under my eye with the Danessa Myricks Lift and Flex Concealer.
All right, so the other song that I love off of Flyygod, this is Shower Shoe Lords, and it features Benny. And I always say on this track, A Star Was Born. This was his standout track, or it's like his introduction to us. And yo, he was rapping like the rent was fucking due, okay? And this man was rapping like the damn rent was due. That's, I think, what it was. He had his unique voice, and then on top of that, it was the intensity in which he was rapping. And I was like, oh yeah, he wanted. Next for me, a classic album is Supreme Clientele. This came out, I believe, in the year 2000, 2001. I believe it was 2000 when it came out because I was still in college. But this is one of my favorite albums. It's a classic. I will still turn this on today and I still jam to it. Still word for word, bar for bar. It's still timeless. It doesn't sound dated. You can still play this now. The man's lyrical ability, even to this day, cannot be questioned. This album could come out today and still be just as popular as it was, if not maybe more than it was back when it was released in 2000. So the first song, what I was listening to before that, was the intro to the album, which I like that part of the album. I really felt like it set the stage. I remember hearing it for the first time and feeling like, what is it we about to listen to? And the song that came right after that is Nutmeg, which features the RZA, and the beat to this song is just insane. The way that it started out with the violins, the strings, it felt very Isaac Hayes, which is very on brand for Ghostface. So it just felt like a very grand like entrance to this album.
So now that the concealer has been applied and dried, I'm just going to blend into my skin using my Danessa Myricks My Kitco collaboration brush. This is the Miami Applicator 24, I think. It's the flat concealer brush though, and it is one of my favorite brushes out of this collection, and it just blends the concealer really flawlessly and gets in like the crooks, like that inner part of my eye, just really well without messing up my makeup or smudging anything.
Yeah, I like RZA's verse on this. I know it won't for everybody, but you like what you like.
Now, I know I just put concealer on, but I just did not feel like I had enough, and this concealer is buildable, so I went back on and put like another layer, and I'm just patting it here into my eyes using the Sephora brush this time.
So this is another song too I love off this album. This is Malcolm. I like this snippet of Malcolm's speech.
So now I'm going to pat any excess concealer into my under eye with the puff. This just ensures that it gets in any little wrinkles that I have there.
Malcolm has some of Ghostface's most descriptive bars in it. We're going to get to the part I like the most, but I can feel and see every single bar in this song. Kmart's the short sleeve shit be the basics. And if you remember, Kmart used to have, what was it called? Basic edition. This is raining, 85 degrees, kind of muggy. One of them nights you throw on a face that's real ugly. So descriptive. I knew exactly what type of night he was talking about. No need for rings at all. He just cracked a V8, laid against the wall. Listen, he missed his calling and like writing stories or something, because this, listen, that could have been a screenplay, that whole scenario.
All right, so now I'm contouring using the Fenty Beauty Matchstick in the shade Espresso, and I'm just using a brush here to apply the contour for better control.
And this was another one. This one was real popular from off of this album. This is Apollo Kids. The video for this, the beat for this, again, this album had really great production. He had wonderful beat selection for this, and yeah, it was good too to hear him and Raekwon back together, because I think this was post Purple Tape, so you know the world wanted it.
So now I'm just gonna blend that contour in using the My Kitco Danessa Myricks collaboration brush. This is an angled brush, and again I just heat the product up onto the stick and just apply it to my face, just shaping and contouring where needed. And now it's time to set the under eye using the Pat McGrath Labs Sublime Under Eye Powder. This powder is GOAT, honey. You talk about blurring under your eyes, this will do it. It is one of my favorite pressed powders, and I just go in pressing that under the eye.
And this is off Ironman, which is another classic album to me. This song is called Fish, and this is with Raekwon and Capadonna are featured on this too. And this was actually my favorite song on this album. That piano loop just snatched me in. All three of them had rhymes, had verses like they was rapping like the rent was due. And this shit really did ring off in the car. And so this next album that is a classic in my eyes is Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi. This is one of my only favorite album by his. Everything else I could kind of take or leave. But Man on the Moon, maybe because it was like where I was in my life at the time. But this album, again, this one has like no skips for me. I'll listen to this any day of the week. And it's still relevant. Like, you could listen to this today, this would fit right in. And so what I'm listening to now, this is the intro to the album, which is In My Dreams, Cutter's Anthem. I thought this was a perfect start to this album. And, you know, just hearing my dreams, you know, everything is okay when I'm asleep, when I'm resting in my dreams in my head. You know, that's my refuge, my quiet place. I love this. This too smacks. You have really good speakers, really good bass, because the bass is...
Okay, so now to warm my face up, I'm going to apply some bronzer, and I'm using the Juvia's Place bronzer in the color Deep, or Dark, I believe. And I just go between those two shades and then apply on my forehead, temples, and on my cheeks.
Alright, so this is another one of my favorite songs from off of this album. This is Simple As, and this joint has like a nice little hype tempo to it.
So now to set my under eye, I'm going to use Huda Beauty setting powder in the shade Sugar Cookie, and I just apply that in my under eye.
One of the other things I liked about this album, the song just didn't have the intro by Common. He was narrating this album, and again, Kid Cudi spoke on like things that, like, now people are like more open about their mental health, but when he started talking about like having night terrors and, you know, just what it's like to be trying to pick yourself up from like a traumatic event in your life, which for him it was his father's passing. It was like I was in that space in my life, and this album, anytime like I'm sad or I need to move past something, or, you know, just in my feelings, I go to listen to this just to remind myself, like, you'll be okay. You're not alone in this world. You know, shit just sucks sometimes in general. And this next song is like one of my favorites too. It's like a little deep cut on the album, but this is Higher with Chip the Ripper. And quiet as kept, like Chip could rap his ass off too. Oh my God, this sample, this beat was just so, it felt like a Friday morning, rolling, like you said, rolling to your homie house. I so low that a nigga gotta put his low song. Oh, I used to love this song so bad. Get higher. Alright, so next in classic albums, one that I have loved since I was 17 years old, is Lil Kim's Hardcore. This is Big Mama Thing. And again, because this is what I was singing when I was 17, I sit and eat my food. I keep it cute, I keep it mute when they start talking about sex and rap lyrics, cause baby, it's a big mama thing. That's how many times I want 21, you know, I was singing that. So who am I to judge?
Now that I'm done baking, I'm just gonna brush off all of the excess powder. I love how that looks. Look how blurred everything is. I love Huda's powders. They're just perfect. I hope nothing changes. Now we're gonna melt all of our makeup down and bring everything back to skin using MAC's Fix Plus. As I have lashes, I spray directly onto the applicator and then press into my skin.
So this is another song I loved off Hardcore. This was called Drugs. And I thought Kim really rapped her ass off on this.
Okay, and so this is what it looks like as I'm pressing it into my skin. Just light taps, don't rub.
It was just so dope listening to a woman that was just like a boss. She was sexy, like just had the latest to everything. She was, yeah, I just can't describe it. But Lil Kim was like a culture shift. Wasn't all love. And like the same way y'all treat the girls down, that's how they was treating Lil Kim. Making wild rumors up, and y'all know what rumor I'm talking about. Coach Bags had such a hard way to go back then. That's why I'm so excited to see y'all picking them back up. So much was said. So another album is Marcielago by Rock Marciano. I'm playing one of my favorite songs from off this album, and it's Molly Ringwald. This beat, the piano loop is crazy. This album was produced by Rock Marciano. If you did not know, he is also a producer. He makes his own beats, does his own stunts. That Christmas show, that he held at Sony Hall. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. If you weren't there, you just missed it. It was December 2019. It was like right before we went in the house, and I always say that I was so happy when we were in quarantine that was the last show that I went to see. Because it was a treat. Everybody and their mama was in the building that night, down to Q-Tip popping out. But yeah, this is Richard Gere. This was like one of the first singles off of this album, and I remember the video for this was just very simple. It was just Rock rapping in front of a Marcielago. I think that's what it was. I might have just made that up. But just rapping in front of the whip and just simplistic.
Now I'm going to apply a little highlighter, and I'm using the Danessa Myricks Lowlighter, rather, is what we call it. And it's in this shade Off the Grid. I love this. It's buildable, and it's not too shiny, and it blurs if you have little imperfections.
Last album is Super Techmo Bo, and that is Boldy James and The Alchemist. And this is one of my favorite songs from off this album, is Tipping Scales. I'm trying to introduce y'all to some new Boldy songs because I covered Super Techmo Bo in depth in episode 8. Go back and watch that. Level Tipping Scales is one of my favorite songs from off this album. I've said it once, I've said it before. I love Boldy and Alchemist together. Alchemist gives him great beats that really work with his voice. Y'all know I love Boldy over here, and he do not miss. So you could have released this year, last year, the year after that, this would have held up. And Alchemist has very timeless production. So like I said, it's a match made in heaven when them two get together. My last album that I feel like is a classic is none other than The Most None Unknown by 3 6 Mafia. I will still play this today with that TikTok challenge back for Half on a Sack. That really had me hyped up and reminded me how much I love this album. I believe this came out when I was like in my early 20s. So this is like almost 20 years later, and I will still turn this on in the car when it's time to get okay. For the lip combo, this is the Fenty Beauty Traced Out Pencil. This one I was able to snag in Satin Panty. Trying to get away from such browns, but this looks like a darkish pink. And I don't know how this is gonna go. Maybe it won't go so good. This is with the Fenty Glow, so maybe we won't try this. Let me just swatch it on my hand and see what's... It's real pink. I think I'm gonna keep it. I don't know if it will go with this Fenty Glow because it looks a little maybe brown and not pink. So we'll see. And this is what it looks like in the box. I'm so happy she's come out with like a lipstick gloss. It looks like the matchsticks, but I'm so happy she has like a lipstick consistency because I love the black. Okay, this might, because this is more like a gloss. Okay, so this might work, but this is what it looks like outside of the container. I have plenty of Fenty to swap out with if I don't like it. So let's get to it. Child, and this song is Knock the Black Off Your Ass. This wasn't one of those where you needed to get off the dance floor if you couldn't fight. I'm just trying to be more accepting because y'all know how I feel about... I mean, I just don't want to keep wearing brown liner, so I'm going to have to step out of my... It's pink for sure. Okay. We're going to keep going with it. Oh, Lord. How we sharpening these liners? They don't roll like the Huda Janks? Somebody help, please. How? Okay. I don't know how I'm supposed to... I'm going to have to look at a video. I'm gonna press on, y'all. Okay, we're gonna see. Keep it going. All right, this is in the color again, Fenty Glow. I have some other colors coming. I did get the extra thigh. Okay, so first impression of the Gloss Balm sticks. I love how easy they are to apply, and the color is darn near like lipstick and lots of shine. So I'm impressed there. This song is Half on a Sack, and I cannot believe y'all were using this as a TikTok challenge. These people have not heard the rest of the words to this song. Man said call cocaine blame. I cannot believe y'all were dancing to this. It's something about the top lip. Hold on. Crunchy Black too. I fucked with him. I thought he had personality too that made the group, but I understand like people, demons and stuff be beating their ass. I don't know, y'all. It feels too pink. I don't know. I like it, but something feels like it's too much. I don't know. What y'all think? If it's growing on me as it sits on my lips. Pause. Maybe some lip oil? I don't know, y'all. I think I need a darker liner. I have to have a darker liner for this. The satin panty, it's okay. I'm just going to tell y'all, it's not this brown like that's on the here, and that's not a reliable swatch, but it's not as brown as it appears on the outside of the box. So I'm going to just heat this up with my Huda Beauty pencil and just kind of darken the line a little bit because I don't like how my top lip looks. Alright, yeah, I like it with just a darker liner. I'm gonna go back in here too with the Danessa Myricks and see. But yeah, the gloss itself has excellent coverage. And I know it seems like all I listen to is hip hop, but one of my favorite R&B albums, which I deem a classic, is J.E. Heartbreak by Jagged Edge. And this song is called True Man from off the album. This is the one that had Let's Get Married, He Can't Love You, What You Trying to Do. Jagged Edge is one of my favorite R&B groups. The harmonies. I'm gonna smudge this out because it looks harsh already and I hate looking like I have a mustache. Okay, so I like it. It was the Fenty Glow. That satin panty was just entirely too light. Other than that, I love the lip gloss itself. It doesn't feel sticky. It's got excellent coverage. It's not sheer. And the pink is not too pink. It's a win. It's gonna stay. We're gonna stay on the hunt for finding the perfect pencil. Kind of was a victim of the fact that they didn't have many in stock and I should have just ordered offline. But when I get the online ones in, I will shoot another video and let you all know how it goes. So now without further ado, we're gonna take the hair down because you know it's not complete until we've taken this headband off and the hair is down. Right, saints and ain'ts. I'm satisfied with the way everything turned. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I traveled this week and my skin is so damn dry and it is really reflecting through my makeup. So this weekend is all about, gonna be about rehydrating. All the music that I played today is on my playlist and it's linked in the description, as well as all of the makeup that I used today. Join me back here next week, Saints and Ain'ts, where I'll be doing my makeup and sharing with you all my favorite music. Till next time, love you, bye.